This is the CPF logo. You've all seen it. But if you look carefully, you'll see it's got 3 keys inside it. And the 3 keys represent the 3 parties who have come together in order to make the CPF system and provide this social security for you. Who are the 3 parties? One is yourself. Because when you work, you earn salary. From the salary, you pay your employee's CPF. The second key is your employer. Because the employer pays into the CPF, into your CPF, the employer CPF contribution over and above your wages, because the government required them by law to do it. So the third key is Cheng Hu, the government. The government made this system, the government set the rules, the government also tops up directly into the CPF of many Singaporeans. How do we do that? We give you housing grants. When you buy an HDB flat, many people will get a housing grant. We give you MediSave top-ups. When you get your GST voucher, there's a MediSave top-up in there. When the finances are good and the Minister for Finance has a good budget, you may get a MediSave top-up. You get workfare, because if you're a low-income worker, in your workfare, a big contribution goes automatically into your CPF every month to help you save for your retirement. So together, the 3 of these, you, your employer, your government, have set up the CPF for a common purpose. And that common purpose is to set up a nest egg for you for your retirement. What is this nest egg for? It's not for you to take out the whole lump sum at once. It is for you to be able to draw out a steady stream of income from the CPF in old age. It's to give you old age security. So the question is, well, okay, how much money do we need to keep in the CPF to get this income stream? And the answer is the minimum sum. And for the MS, and for the group which is turning 55 this year, the MS is $155,000. Seems like a big sum. It's far from excessive. And let me show you through an example why I don't think that it is excessive. Last year, I was your real estate agent. This year, the real estate market is no good. I've upgraded myself. I've become a financial planner. Okay. As a financial planner, I was sitting in my office. Mr. and Mrs. Tan came to consult me. They are reaching 55. They have to make decisions on their CPF and their retirement plans, so they came to ask me to talk through their options. Let me show you. Here's Mr. Tan. He's 54 plus years old. He's a senior technician, and he earns $4,500 per month. His wife, Mrs. Tan, is a housewife about the same age. I didn't ask the wife's age, but about the same. They have 2 kids. The son has finished NS, going to university now. Daughter still in school. So the household income is not bad, $4,500 per month. And they're living in a 4-room flat in Ang Mo Kio. You can see the flat there. They are, I think, on the 5th floor. Fully paid up, $450,000 worth of a flat. So this is a Tan family now. Now, I said to Mr. Tan, think about it. In 10 years' time, your children will have grown up, finished studying, working, perhaps married. You will be still working. You could be on the point of retiring, but your expenses will be less in retirement, so you won't need the same income as now. So I asked Mr. Tan, how much do you think you will need in retirement every month? What will we need? So he thought about it. While he thinks about it, let me ask you what you think he needs. What do you think? $3,000 per month? That's about 2/3 what he's getting now. $2,000 per month? Half, less than half what he's getting now. Or $1,000 per month, which is less than a quarter of the current income. Let's have a show of hands. We decide for the Tans. Who says he needs $3,000 per month. Upstairs, nobody put hands up. Okay. Who says he needs $2,000 a month? Enough. Oh, this is more. Okay, who says $1,000 enough? Old people don't spend much money. Nobody. Okay, so I take it that you think he needs about $2,000 a month. Right? Which is what Mr. Tan said too after thinking it over. Now, just as well. So let me ask you this, which is what Mr. Tan asked me. To get $2,000 a month from the age of 65 for the rest of his life, how much money do you think he must put in to the CPF now and lock up so that 65 years old he can start drawing $2,000 a month? So Mr. Tan didn't know the answer, but I had a calculator. CPF has these things, and they did the sums. So I looked up the answer, and the answer is he needs $250,000 now, when he's 55 years old, in order to get what he wants, if it is all to come from the CPF, $2,000 a month. And I don't have to tell you, but this is more than the MS, which is only $155K. So I told Mr. Tan this. He looked a bit disappointed. He says, I don't have $155K. So I said, well, you own a house, right? He said, yes. So I said, the CPF lets you count your house in the MS. So your house can make up half the MS. And then you only need to put $77,500 of cash in the CPF. If you want, you can take the rest out. And then you will have made up your full MS, half property, half cash. So he brightened up. He says, $77,500, no problem. I can take some money out now, go on holiday with my wife. Then I said, I haven't finished the sum. $250,000, you get $2,000. $77,500, if you only leave $77,500 in the CPF, you will get out of the CPF, how much do you think? All of $600 per month. So if you need $2,000, this is not going to be enough, and you'll have to think of some other sources of income when you reach 65. So he stopped planning his holiday. He asked me, so what can I do? I said, well, you have several options. First, you could continue working, because 10 years' time, most likely, we're working with NTUC. We should have raised the re-employment age beyond 65, and if you're still healthy, I would strongly encourage you to continue working. Secondly, your children will be working, and they may help to support you. I hope so, because we teach them that in school. Thirdly, you can draw on your personal savings. You told me you had some POSB account savings, so that's for a rainy day and for old age. Or you can get some money out of your house. So Mr. Tan says, now, okay, how do I do that? So I said, well, there are several ways you can take money out of your house. You could rent out one room. You post an ad on Property Guru. One room in Ang Mo Kio, how much do you think? $1,000. Well, I told him, conservatively, you can get $700 a month. That's per month, steady income. Or if you're going to move in with your children have married, you can move in with them. You can rent out the whole flat. And how much do you think you can get renting out the whole flat? In fact, you can check up the answer in the Straits Times, because HDB publishes the data. Ang Mo Kio, 4-room flat, currently at $2,500 per month. Not bad. The third thing you could do is you could right size. What does right sizing mean? Right sizing means you sell this flat, you buy a smaller flat. Let's say you buy a studio apartment. You move into the studio apartment, and then in the process, you can enjoy a silver housing bonus from the government, which is $20,000. And if you do this, we can do the sums, you'll get quite a lot of money. $210,000 plus $800 per month. $800 per month is additional income, and it's on top of what CPF Life was going to pay you. So Mr. Tan says, wow, sounds good. Then he got a bit carried away. He says, if I'm going to live with my daughter, why don't I just sell my flat outright? I'll get even more money. So I said, well, I encourage you to stay with your children, but I would advise you to think very, very carefully before you sell your flat. Because I've seen so many sad cases. Seniors cashed out unwisely, cheated of all their money, sometimes even turfed out by their children. Quarrel with children, quarrel with in-laws. So it's better you keep your property. Even if you rent out the whole flat, doesn't matter. It's yours, you can fall back on it for your old age, just in case anything happens. So he paused again. Then he asked me a new question. He says, my neighbor, 3-room, he just turned 65. He's a bit older than me. He did a lease buyback with HDB. How does that work? So I said, sorry, lease buyback not for you. Lease buyback 3-room, your 4-room cannot. So he says, never mind. Assuming can, then how? So I said, okay, if you really want to know, let me explain to you, but remember, cannot. So here's how it works. You bought this flat when you got married, and it came with a 99-year lease. Looks very long. So this line is a 99-year lease on your flat. You've lived in it since then, now quarter century. In 10 years' time, you'll be 65 years old, and you will still have this long lease left. In fact, the long lease left is about 65 years. So I think when you're 65, you probably are not going to live in this house for another 65 years, right? So he said, okay. So I said, well, so let's say you live in this house for another 30 years. Then you really don't need the rest of the lease beyond that. You only need these 30 years. So this part you can sell to HDB, and HDB will buy back from you. That's why it's called a lease buyback. And if they buy it back from you, then they'll shorten your lease and they'll give you some money. So he says, how much? So we did the sums, assuming he can get it. Well, he gets $27,500 plus $900 per month. And again, this is on top of what he gets from CPF. It's not quite as much cash as if he's right-sizing, but that's because he can continue to stay in the same flat. And he can even rent out a room in the flat if he wants. But I said, sorry, yours 4-room, so no lease buyback. So Mr. Tan says, oh, what a pity. Can I see my MP or not? To appeal for lease buyback. So I told him, sure, your MP, I think this is Lee Hsien Loong, Block 322 Avenue 3 every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And that's how my advisory session ended, and next thing I knew, I saw Mr. Tan at my MPS. So actually, what Mr. Tan wanted, which is to have the lease buyback for 4-room flats, many other Singaporeans also want. Last year, we held the Our Singapore conversation, and there were many seniors who were living in larger flats asking for lease buyback because they felt that right-sizing, moving to a studio apartment, taking the silver housing bonus, they're all attractive options, but they still preferred to grow old in the comfort of their own homes. And I can fully understand that. The surroundings are familiar, your old friends are around you, your neighbors are, you've known them for so long. You don't want to uproot yourself, move somewhere else unfamiliar, set up, and then have to establish your networks and your links all over again. So HDB has studied this carefully, and I'm happy to tell you, as well as Mr. and Mrs. Tan, if they're still watching, that we will extend the lease buyback scheme to 4-room flats. And this will cover more than half of all flat owners in Singapore. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Tan are not a real family, but the Tan's profile is quite typical of many HDB households. And even if your own circumstances are not quite the same as the Tan's, the general conclusion from this is still valid. And what is the general conclusion from this case? First of all, the CPF and your house go hand in hand to provide for your retirement. If you have both of them, then you should have one happy couple. Secondly, the current minimum sum, 155K, is not too much. Thirdly, which I think many Singaporeans don't realize, if you own a house, you only need to set aside half of the MS, and that's only $77,500. Let me have a show of hands. How many of you knew all this before I explained this to you? Wow, more and more hands, but I think honestly, not all of us know, and I would say even not all the MPs are completely familiar. So finally, if you have a house, then you have many options to get money out of the house. You can rent, you can right-size, you can lease buyback, but whichever way you go, you probably will get the lump sum and some income. So because these are fundamental, simple points, I made a summary pamphlet with Mr. and Mrs. Tan inside to put this all out, and you can pick up your copy later after my speech.